can see, we have a pretty dramatic remodeling going on. This part's pretty much done, although I will probably add a few more things here or there. The rest of this, stay tuned. We'll see how long it takes me. So you may be familiar with this guy. He's the state superintendent, which I didn't even know there was such a thing, of Oklahoma. He's the guy that bought a bunch of Trump Bibles. He purchased 500 of them with the explicit goal of getting Bibles into the schools. Now, he doesn't say that this is a Trump Bible, but that's what they were. From what I understand, there's a stay, which is like a delay. It's not the same thing as a ban. Again, I don't really know how this all works. But right now, this plan can't go through. And it absolutely shouldn't go through. Not only do we have separation of church and state, which, no, is not something that Jefferson wrote in a letter. It was Madison's actual original intent of the Establishment Clause. Now, it would be pretty epic to, just have the Bible. Like, if I worked in Oklahoma, Forrest, maybe you can do this. Have the Bible, open it up and be like, okay, kids, let's talk about this, because he teaches science. At least I think so. And open it up and just point to literally anything that has to do with science, like basically you could just go with Genesis and say, yeah, we now know scientifically that none of that ever happened, so this book is false, and then throw it on the ground. In geology class, you can teach how the flood obviously never happened. It would actually be great. Now, the other problem with this is that public schools don't make money. They operate off of taxes. And so what's happening here, and there's more than one case of this guy doing this, is he's taking taxpayer money for the school budget and giving it to Trump. And if he wants to have a Bible in every school, that's going to be millions of dollars going to Donald Trump. He should absolutely be impeached over that and the crypto stuff and countless other things because he's in violation of the Emoluments Clause. We're not going to make this video about that. It's just a fact. Well, recently, Mr. Walters got himself into some trouble.
New tonight, the governor is responding after reports that nude women were shown on a television behind the state superintendent during an executive session of the Board of Education. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Evan Onstein.
I'm Jessica Shambach. The governor is saying tonight, I trust and appreciate my board members. They are volunteers who are sacrificing their time to serve Oklahoma students.
Good for him.
Should these allegations be true, all I can say is that I am profoundly disappointed. Now, according to the Oklahoman, OSDE board members Ryan Dethridge and Becky Carson say they saw nude women on a TV screen behind Superintendent Ryan Walters during that meeting. They described to the Oklahoman that the video appeared to be something from the 1960s.
The incident happened during this closed-door session yesterday. We reached out to both Dethridge and Carson. Neither would confirm what they saw specifically, but Carson said in part, quote, the images that board members were exposed to yesterday in this meeting were inappropriate to say the least. There has to be accountability.
So I read a report on this, and essentially what happened, and there were some quotes in there as well from people that were there. So Walters has his computer, and his computer is airdropping or whatever to a TV. And unbeknownst to him, this is such a boomer thing, he's projecting what's on his computer onto the TV, but he doesn't realize it because the TV's behind him. And then, it's so perfect. Somebody looks at what's on the TV and they say, wait a minute, are those women naked? And Walters allegedly says, no, they're wearing nude bodysuits. But then people start looking at it more closely and they say, no, I can see her nipples. And I think somebody said they could see pubic hair too. So Walters is just making, no, that's not what it is. And then there's this hilarious write-up where like he's panicking. And he's just, I can't figure out how to get it disconnected. And people are saying, for God's sake, just get it off the screen already. So just absolutely caught red-handed and trying to make up excuses in real time, and the panic that sets in, I can't figure out how to get it disconnected. Shouldn't surprise you that Walters is one of these people that's trying to ban books as being pornographic, which the Bible has, plenty of pretty risque verses in it, right? So the guy that wants pornography out of the schools is showing up, and who is the state superintendent is showing up to a Board of Education or whatever it was meeting with pornography on his computer.
Dethridge also providing a statement saying, in part, we hold educators to the strictest of standards when it comes to explicit material. The standard for the superintendent should be no different.
And Superintendent Walters
It should be a lot higher, actually. And then, yeah, he's doing the classic thing of literally all the accusations against me are false. And we'll see how this develops over time, I guess.
KOCO, some of these board members are blatantly dishonest and cannot hide their political agenda. It is disappointing that they are more interested in creating distractions than getting work done for Oklahoma.
This is just so carefully crafted to say literally nothing at all. He's not affirming that anything happened. He's not denying that anything happened. This statement has nothing at all to do with him. He's just saying, oh, well, these other people are bad people, you know? I cannot stand the way no politician will honestly talk about literally anything.
Is joining us now. I really appreciate you coming on to have this important discussion. As you know, your state's Attorney General's office says you don't have the authority for this mandate to play that prayer video. So what authority do you have to mandate schools to show your prayer video where you also pray for President-elect Trump?
Look, I've continued to hear the gaslighting from the left, and frankly, even from this network, pushing lies about what's going on across America. President Trump has a clear mandate. He wants prayer back in school. He wants radical leftism out of the classroom, wants our kids to be patriotic, want parents back in charge.
Has nothing to do with the question you were asked.
With school choice. We're enacting upon that agenda here in Oklahoma. That's what our parents want. Every county in Oklahoma voted for President Trump. His agenda is crystal clear, and we're going to enact it in the state of Oklahoma.
I'm not going to take the bait on what you said about gaslighting from this network on this. I'm asking you a specific question. Where is your authority specifically coming from? As you know, thousands of people, including parents who signed a petition to impeach you with more than 14,000 signatures at last check, say this is government overreach and you're taking control away from local parents, local school boards and parents over their kids. What do you say to that? And
just such a punchable face and expression on his face.
Where is your authority coming from to enforce this prayer video to be played in schools?
Yeah, I appreciate you pushing that left-wing narrative here, but here's the reality.
It's not a left-wing narrative. I'm literally talking about a petition that parents have signed that's gotten more than 14,000 signatures that have raised this issue.
It's clear on religious liberty. The Constitution's crystal clear on religious liberty. I know the left doesn't.
Yeah, you can't endorse any specific religion.
Want our kids to know anything about the role the Bible played in American history. They don't want any of our kids to know about the Constitution. Our religious liberties are protected, and the left has driven the Bible out of schools, driven prayer out of schools, and everything in education has gotten worse since. Before we had a federal Department of Education and we had the Bible and prayer in school, guess what? We were leading the free world. This was the greatest country in the world, and we have seen every statistic has gotten worse since the creation of the Federal Department of Education and the Supreme Court pulled the Bible and prayer out of schools. President Trump has won on this issue.
What does that even mean? Like, what are we not still leading the world in? Like, I have no idea what he's talking about. Test scores have gone down, but I don't think the Department of Education is to blame for that. That's a very stupid talking point.
He has a crystal clear mandate. It's what Americans want. It's what Oklahomans want. And so we're going to deliver on those on President Trump's promises here in Oklahoma.
All right. First of all,
what does Oklahoma rank in education outcomes? It looks like they're pretty much right in the middle. It's very odd how Texas and California, how different they are. They're last and second to last in graduation rate.
Well, the Constitution is not crystal clear on that. It doesn't have God in it. There is this establishment clause in the First Amendment, which the Supreme Court has routinely said it requires the separation of church and state and public schools. There are many cases hold on, I'm speaking. There are many cases where the Supreme Court has routinely ruled on that. You went after woke teachers and the radical left in your announcement for attacking religious liberty, but your critics are saying that by requiring Bibles in every classroom and requiring this prayer video, you're trying to impose your religion on students in violation of the Establishment Clause. They say the Constitution, scholars say the Constitution is crystal clear on freedom of religion, not enforcing
including freedom from religion.
one religion, your religion, on students. What do you say?
Look, CNN doesn't have to like it. Left-wing activists don't have to like it.
I'm just
but
talking about facts. It's not
a
my opinion.
document. The Bible is a historical document. You can't rewrite history, okay? The reality is the Bible was what drove so many of the consequential events in American history. Why did the Pilgrims come to America? Why in the world did Abraham...
To seek religious freedom, the kind of thing that you are working toward eliminating from people. You're imposing your religious doctrines on Oklahoma students. Is he really that stupid, or is he just a lying, conniving sack of shit? It's always so hard to tell.
Abraham Lincoln mentioned God and God's providence in so many of his speeches. How do you explain Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail where he goes through biblical examples if the left continues to censor the Bible from our history classes? Listen, the left...
What does Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter have to do with public education in the state of Oklahoma?
Doesn't have to like it, they can be offended by it, but we've got to teach history to our young people to make this country great again. President Trump has a clear mandate. Our kids have to understand what made America great in the first place, and obviously the Bible, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence are indispensable in understanding the story of America.
I'm not saying that the Bible isn't.
They rank 49th in education. Yeah, I was just looking at graduation rate. Well, this is from U.S. News, and it ranks them as 48, so yeah, pretty bad.
An important part of understanding this. What I'm saying is your critics, including a lot of parents, are saying you're trying to enforce your religion, your specific religion, Christianity, onto students, not just by requiring Bibles in every classroom, but also by requiring this prayer video as well, where you also pray for Donald Trump. Just last week, this federal judge ruled it's unconstitutional for the Ten Commandments to be shown in the classroom. How is what you're trying to do different?
Well, it's a radical federal judge way out of step with the American people and the Constitution. Here's the reality. We have the right to express our religious beliefs.
He's an NPC. He only has like 3 dialogue options. No, not 3, 2.
We absolutely do. That doesn't stop at a schoolhouse. Well, I was crystal clear in there. We're not telling kids they have to pray, but we are telling kids they have the right to pray if they so choose. That is what the free expression of your religious beliefs.
No, you're forcing the classrooms to play a video where you pray. You're making them listen to you pray. He's just such a slimy liar.
Means, and the left has driven that out of schools because of their hatred for Christianity and people of faith.
No, we hate you and people like you.
Trump has been clear.
I don't think that's fair to say that they hate people of Christianity or people of faith. The critics who are and I'm specifically talking about those who have signed this impeachment form for you, those school districts who aren't showing this. Their concern is that it's coercive and that, look, you're talking about how important the Bible is in U.S. history and the founding of the country, but this was a country that was not founded on a specific religion, and that if you are really, if it's important to talk about religious texts and how it weaves into the history of the U.S., then why not also include the Quran? Why not also include the Book of Mormon? Why not also include
a religion that was founded in the United States? That's a good question.
These other religious texts.
Well, let's talk about this for a second. Everyone who signed that list, everybody suing me, they're the same people that want genderqueer inflamer in the classroom under the guise
of...
That's
not necessarily true. You are painting everyone with a broad brush.
No, I can't. No, okay, we're going to try to power through it.
I know the litigants in the case. The ACLU sued me on both. Southern Poverty Law Center. The reality is these people want radical gender pornography in the classroom, but they don't want the Bible.
They would say the Bible has pornography and incest and rape. So what do you say to that?
You think the Bible's on the same plane as gender?
I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying.
Yep, shift the goalpost. Yep. Yeah, there's explicit sexual language in the Bible, emanations as, what does it say? Something like a horse or whatever, discharge like a horse. And yeah, rape and incest. Do you think that's on the same level? Well, if you think that kind of stuff doesn't belong, then you have to ban the Bible.
And that's laughable. The Bible's the most read book in American history, and the left doesn't want our kids to know anything about it. They don't want the kids to understand that it played a huge role in American history. That is academic malpractice. We have to get back to teaching American exceptionalism, American values, where those things came from. That's just history, and the left doesn't have to.
You're not answering my question about these other religious texts. If that is your reason, if you were like, I want our students to learn about the founding of this country, and the Bible played a big role in that, then why not include other religious texts that also throughout history played a role, such as I pointed out, the Book of Mormon, such as, the Quran?
Sure, look, in a world history class, you can absolutely talk about those, but let's be clear, in American history, the Bible played a unique role in shaping this history, and you said no religion. Thomas Jefferson said our rights came from God, and again, look, maybe we all need to go back and study some of this, especially on CNN, to understand the role.
Thomas Jefferson rejected part of Christian doctrine. Thomas Jefferson promoted freedom of religion. One of his
No kidding, he wasn't a Christian.
top 3 accomplishments on his gravestone is promoting a law in Virginia for the freedom of religion. So, John Adams, would you say that John Adams is a key founder of the United States? Do you think he is? Okay.
Absolutely.
John Adams signed a treaty in 1797 saying the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. Look, I'm not. Listen.
We got to get you in an Oklahoma history class because the next line is.
Let's talk about Oklahoma history, because Oklahoma is 48th in the country when it comes to education. It's ranked 48th in the country.
Boom.
Your critics say the money that you're spending on the Bible, putting Bibles in every classroom, you've asked for $6 million.
51. They're including Washington, D.C. Okay.
Should be spent in other ways to better educate the students, because they're very worried about where Oklahoma is ranked in the education system. What do you say to that?
Hey, we are in the middle of a turnaround here because we are following President Trump's agenda. This is the agenda for the entire country. We have school choice. We have merit pay. We are rejecting this.
Not even remotely trying to answer the question. Yeah, no, I can't do anymore. Rational Answers to Stupid Questions tackles about 100 of the most common anti-scientific tropes we hear all the time. If you want to be well equipped to tackle stupidity and also learn the history and research behind the facts, you can get a copy by going to the link below. Thank you. So here he is telling some more really stupid lies.
We've seen concerns across the country and what some states are doing in education. The two that were flagged for us were California and New York, as they've continued to adopt standards and requirements on their teachers that run antithetical to our standards. For example, California is now requiring teachers to teach that there is no difference between genders, between the sexes, between male and female.
That is absolutely not the case. You can read all about what the comprehensive sex education requirements and standards are for California. I opened up the thing about LGBTQ. It literally just says that you have to teach that these people exist and an anti-discriminatory take on it. Just making sure to not promote bias against people despite like whatever their orientation identity is. Absolutely, there's nowhere in the sex education standards does it say you have to teach that there's no such thing as sex, that there's no such thing as gender, that there's 27 genders. He says that specific term a lot. That there's no difference between men and women. It doesn't say anything like that anywhere at all.
So what we have moved forward to do is to say, if you're coming from these states, you will take a test through the State Department to show you align to our standards.
What is this hair color? Like, it looks like spray paint. What is he doing?
You're not going to come in here and teach that there's 27 genders, there's boys and girls. That's in our science standards. You're going to come.
So I looked up that too, what he said, like, because we're trying to get them aligned to Oklahoma standards. No, there are no Oklahoma standards that say there are only 2 genders or anything like that. The best you could possibly argue is that in Oklahoma's like sex education curriculum, it teaches about male and female, or maybe like in an anatomy and physiology which there usually aren't standards for that. It's because it's an elective. But you could say that to the extent they do sex education, which is not very much, or that they would just, male and female anatomy or whatever. But no, there's actually, what he said about Oklahoma isn't true there at all.
And you're not going to undermine American exceptionalism by teaching anti-American, anti-Semitic hate. So as states are now requiring, these left-wing states, teachers to do things that are so antithetical to our standards and Oklahoma values, we want to make sure, as we are recruiting the best and the brightest in the country, that they align with our values. And so that is a test that we're working on right now with Prager University.
Right. So more funneling taxpayer money to some out-of-state private entity. This is just so backwards and corrupt and awful. Like, there's no way that this asshole isn't getting kickbacks from this stuff. That's what I should have mentioned earlier. Another thing he's doing is he's trying to pump all kinds of money into a private school, a private online school in a different state, again, in Arizona. This American Virtual Academy, their tuition is $6,000 a year. There, now you can see it. So $6,000 a year. So who's going to pay for that? The districts are, I don't know exactly what the plan is, but it sounds like because they're partnering with them, that the school district, for students that want to take like an alternative approach to education, so enroll in an online school, well, they're going to foot the bill for that. Maybe what they're saying is they will simply accept people who are enrolled there as meeting the Oklahoma graduation requirements. That would be less corrupt. It'd still be a stupid idea because this school is actually in the process of getting shut down because of how poorly everybody that is enrolled there performs. I took a look at their website because in this news article, they say that the school labels itself a conservative school. On its website, American Virtual Academy calls itself a conservative online private school. Now, I couldn't find that anywhere in the About Us or anything like that, so I'm not really sure. I mean, it is coded that way. I did a little bit of digging in, like into science and history. I was trying to see, like, do they just not teach that the Civil War happened? No, they teach that it happened. And even for biology, it says right there, evolution is the backbone of modern biology. So maybe it's not the worst thing in the world, but no, don't. The privatization of public education, I think, is just a terrible thing. But this is even worse than that. It's forcing everybody who lives in Oklahoma to foot the bill to pay an outside organization so that some people can get the privilege of being enrolled there or whatever it is. It's just gross. This guy is a moron. He's a complete hypocrite. He's a liar. He's slimy. He's probably corrupt as hell. I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting kickbacks for this. And he posts nudie pictures in education board meetings. So, yeah. Ryan Walters, go to hell. Well, he already lives in Oklahoma, so I guess that's bad enough.